Well, hello everyone. It's great to have you with us online at Ararat Community Church, or ACC as we're known. I'm Pastor Dee. Today we had an outdoor service, which was really fantastic to be back together again, but we're also really glad to have you here with us online as well. In a minute you're going to hear the sermon that Pastor Jay preached, and we hope you get a lot from it. It's on teaching, and I'd just like to pray for us. Lord God, thank you so much for the way that you teach us, Lord. Thank you for the way that you can give us wisdom. And Lord, thank you that you're just there to guide us every day in our everyday life. So we just thank you for the opportunity to listen to this great teaching and help us to use it during the week as we go out into the world after listening to it. Amen. Well, we hope you really enjoy the sermon and we hope you get a lot from it. And hopefully we'll see you again next week.
So, we're going to look at a couple of passages today. So grab your Bibles, everybody. We're actually going to look at the next gift. Now, gift and calling, as we've been saying. The next gift and calling, of course, is the teaching gift. Now, hands up if you think you've got the teaching gift. Quickly. Come on. Yeah, great. Let's go. Brilliant. Okay, you're going to fill up the roster for the next few weeks, you guys. Just so you know, I need a break. No, actually, we've got a few guest speakers coming, so that's going to be exciting. The gift of teaching. Well, how many of you, and you don't have to shout them out, but how many of you can think about a contemporary teacher that you really enjoy? Someone online, someone the other side of the world, probably, maybe in our own country. You can think of somebody that you think, oh, I love listening to that guy or that lady. It really inspires me. I really learn a lot. That kind of thing. Good. So can I. And that's because we have a church-wide church, don't we? The universal church. When God talks about church, he's talking about the whole thing. He's not talking about just us, this group here. He's talking about the group down the road, the group over there, the group down in Melbourne or wherever. He's talking about the whole church, isn't he? But it's teachers, I think you would probably agree with me, it's teachers who have the ability to explain things and clearly help us reason them through, right? So that we can understand them better. Is that right? Would you agree with that sort of thing? So we got information or knowledge, but we need somebody to explain it to us. Would you agree? That doesn't make us thick or stupid, does it? It just means we want to understand what it means to us and to our world and our experience. And that is, of course, the same whether it's education or whether it's gospel truth, the Bible, biblical truth, the Word of God. But also, applying it can have loads of different layers, can't it? So we need teachers who can explain the ramifications of the word on our lives as we apply it. And in church history, would you agree? There have been a few big names. I've got a couple here. Can anyone think of a big name teacher who's been well known in the past? Go on. Billy Graham. Billy Graham, good teacher. Definitely an evangelist as well, though, wasn't he? So teacher and an evangelist, which is common. So most of these guys will have a couple of gifts, or ladies will have a couple of gifts, won't they? Who else? Anyone else? Big name? Michael Youssef. He's still contemporary, though. He's still around, isn't he? I think. Did he? Yeah, he's still around. He hasn't passed away, has he? No. Okay, good. Thought I'd double check. Okay. Anyone else? Ravi Zacharias has just passed away, but he was a great teacher, wasn't he? Absolute blessing to the church. Go on, Kelvin. Derek Prince. He's a well-known guy from the 60s, 70s, somewhere around there, I think. His posts are still online, aren't they, all his videos?
Pastor Jeff Vine.
Jeff Vine. He's current, isn't he? It's happening right now, yeah. What about Spurgeon, D.L. Moody? You heard of these guys? Leo Harris. Leo Harris is a CRC guy. So there's been a few who've somehow got a name for themselves. Why is that then? Why have they got a name for themselves? Why do we know them so well? Well, let's move on to our key points. Next slide, please. Thank you. We're going to consider the important aspects of this gifting. Now, whether you've got this gifting or not, whether you're a teacher or not, you should still know what it means to be a teacher so that you can appreciate and take on board what God's given you in your church, but also you can adapt your own methods, as we'll see in a minute. And we're going to look at what it means to teach well. Okay, so there's teaching. Hands up if you had a really great teacher at school. Does anyone remember a great teacher? Who was your best teacher? Come on, just in case they're online and they stumble on it at this exact moment, God makes them click on it. And John says, my best teacher was Miss Fife. She was real good, yeah? She was great. And you need to come to church, Miss Fife, okay? If you just heard that. That's the Lord. He's leading you. He said, get down to church, quick. Anyone else? Yes? John Grieve. How do you know the first name? This is Australian, isn't it? You're not supposed to know the names in the UK. It's Mr. or Miss, that's it. Okay, anyone else? Go on.
Mr. Clark, I had him for the technical drawing.
Mr. Clark. Your name, the Lord's calling you, Mr. Clark. Keep going. Anyone else at the back yet?
Yeah, Douglas Blake.
Douglas Blake. I'm not used to this first name stuff. This is strange. Okay.
He went on to be the headmaster of the school that my children went to.
Oh, he became a headmaster. He must have been decent then. He was good. Go on, Nikki. Mr. Hooker, he was good, right?
Yeah.
What subject? Any particular subject?
Geography.
You ready for... Oh, geography. Good. Do you know what my favourite teacher's name was? Mr. Topless. That's honestly his name. That's really dodgy, I realise, but he was a brilliant bloke. And you know what? He was my teacher when I was about 6. He made that much of an impression on me. I think he was probably a Christian. I'm honestly, he was so kind and loving. I've never forgotten him since primary school. And I've always thought, I love that guy. He was really nice. I love being in his class. It's like one of my earliest memories. It's amazing, isn't it? Impacting. He made an impact. And we want to make an impact, don't we, when we're teaching? We don't want to just teach thoughts, ideas. There's plenty of that in the world, isn't there? Lots of people with lots of their opinions, which amount to not much, right? We can't even remember what they said next week. So we're going to look at the levels of teaching. We're going to look at whether we teach, generally speaking, as well in our lives, okay? Let's move on to the next slide. We're going to start then with Moses. Let's go to Exodus, please. Exodus 4, and actually then you'll see it comes up as Exodus 18 as well. Now, for you youngsters, and obviously this is a hint, Elijah. This is a hint. Have a look at the screen. Elijah needs to learn to drive, I feel. It's really unfair of me to put it in the preach, but there we go. Moses was our first type of teacher. Now, remember last week I was talking about the fact that we have different, in Connect Group, we were talking about the fact there's different types of leaders. Do you remember that? We talked a couple of weeks ago, actually. Different types of leaders. Well, Moses was a certain type of teacher. Teacher-centered. Who's heard of that? This is modern language, that there are different types of teacher. Do you know that? So there's different schools of thought on how you should teach. And this is kind of teacher-led. So it's teacher-centered. So I've got the information, I've done all my research, I know what the curriculum is, according to God, and now I'm delivering it here. And you guys are kind of like the students, and so am I, because I listen to it back and go, wow, that's amazing. I get things, I'm preaching to myself, which Paul said, we should be preaching to ourselves. So interestingly, Moses would be the first type, okay, in the Bible, probably. And it's been said that all teachers and learners, teachers are actually learners. Would you agree with that? If you're going to be a teacher, you need to also be a learner. Would you agree with that? Yeah? So even if it's 5 minutes before your lesson, and you've got a textbook going, I just can't remember what this stuff is. What is it again? Sustainability. Sustainability. What's it to do with? It's something to do with like the environment. They'll be here in a minute. Oh my goodness. Something to do with saving the planet. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I'll give them the 6 R's. Oh, that's good. I'll do the 6 R's and it'll all come back to me. That's how real teachers teach. You know that, right? We're not really very well prepared. No, actually, it's just in the deep recesses of our minds. We just can't quite bring it to the front straight away when we need it. So Exodus 4:12, let's have a look at that, please. Everyone turn to that verse. This is God teaching Moses. So therefore, Moses is learning so that he can teach. Look at the verse. Verse 12 and then verse 15 as well. Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. Okay? He goes on to say, you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. So now Moses and Aaron are both being taught what to do. This is probably the best example, the earliest example of teaching in the Bible. And it says, teach them his decrees and instructions. This is now in Exodus 18. Let's turn to that as well. Teach them his decrees and instructions and how they should... Well, let's stop a minute. Who is this talking? Does anyone know? Let's have a look at the passage. Exodus 18. This is, remember, Moses has been the great teacher. He's been up the front. And the church is getting kind of big. The Israelite nation is growing. And he's been up the front on his own, doing all the teaching stuff, the judging stuff. And suddenly someone else enters the scene. His name is Jethro. Have you heard of Jethro? Yeah? Now Jethro has wisdom. Well, God gives him wisdom maybe. And he turns up and says to Moses, look, Moses, this is not great, man. It's not going to work in the long term. You can't just do this indefinitely. You're getting tired. You need some other people. And look what he says about the people who should be allowed to teach or should be given that opportunity. By the way, if you want to pray for me, you know when Mike Pence was on the TV and he got a fly on his hair? Do you remember this? It's in the news, right? I've got a fly that keeps chasing me around. And, I'm finding it annoying. So if you feel like praying, binding the spirits, demonic spirits, okay? Thanks. Good. Moses is being told, look, mate, this is not going to work. Teach them, so this is get a load of other people and teach them his decrees and instructions and show them the way they are to live and how they are to behave, but select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain. And that little phrase comes up later, doesn't it? I've mentioned it not that long ago, actually. And appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. This is like getting connect group leaders, evening service leaders. I was an evening service leader. I wasn't the overall pastor, but I was like a co-pastor at one point. House group leaders, or connect group leaders as we call it. It could be that you're leading the men's group or that you're contributing in that way. And that is how churches should function, isn't it? It shouldn't be all about one person. You agree with that? We're not looking for one, but it's all your job, mate. You do everything all week, and then you come and serve me some nice, tasty meat and food, right? That's not what God wants. He wants a group of teachers. He wants more than one teacher in a church. But interestingly, you see straight away that from this, there are certain requirements to be a teacher. Have a look at the verses. Verse 20 to 21. You need to be capable. What does capable mean? Capable of, this is in terms of teaching. Go on then. Able. It's in the clues in the name. Able. Able to teach, meaning you've learnt something. Right? You've got something to teach. You actually have to learn something. You also need to live right. You need to be already teaching by your lifestyle. You know that every one of you is teaching. Every time you stand up to worship, you're teaching. Do you know that? The kids, they're looking around to see who's worshipping. How do you worship God? Let me look around. Who's really passionately praising God? Oh, is that how I do it? Little subtle sledgehammer comment. We are teaching people by our behaviour. If I stand up and go, I can't be bothered. Can't bother to praise God. He's just God, isn't he? I mean, he's only the Almighty. I can't really be bothered. Well, then the children are learning that, aren't they? They think, oh, there's no real point, is there? Might as well sit down. I love to be really confronting you. I know it's terrible, sorry. But I really feel like we need to, when you come to worship, it's you and God. Right? The fact that everybody else is getting involved is great, but God's interested in you. He's looking at your heart going, are you here for me? Right? Do you love me? Come and praise me. And why does he want us to praise him? Why does he want us to praise him?
Because he loves you.
Good. Why is it good for us to praise him?
Because it lifts up our spirit.
Correct. It's for us. It's for us. God doesn't need our praise. He enjoys it, but he doesn't need it. Okay? Right. Next one. Let's move on to our next example. Now, the apostles, note the P plate there, larger. See that? Good. That comes next, doesn't it, in the Australian system, so that's why you need to start now. Anyway, let's move on. This is terrible, isn't it? Sorry, I do this to him occasionally, and he just goes down just such a nightmare later on. But he's quite cool and calm about it all. The early church, let's look at Acts chapter 2, verse 42. Let's go and have a look at it in the Bible, in our own text and on our own phones and all that. The early church, look at this word, was devoted. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. Are you devoted to learning about God? And even if you're not, obviously we could be thinking, actually, yeah, I should be devoted. Right, where else can I listen into some teaching on God? Maybe I should go online and check. Maybe I should hang out with someone and talk about some God stuff, while we're hanging out, rather than just the news, the weather, and all the other stuff that we talk about. Are we always teachable? The issue is not that we're going to learn new doctrines. We're not asking, what I really need is just to gullibly, just someone tell me something new and I'll learn it. No, obviously that's not what we're talking about. But we are talking about learning more about the doctrines of Christianity and of God himself and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, aren't we? Okay? Okay. I would ask then, what have we done recently to extend our own gift of teaching, for those of you who put your hands up, or just to learn something new in terms of offering to contribute in Connect Group or sharing a communion message? Now, as we have said before, our church is pretty good on this. We've got a good roster and people are willing, aren't you? You guys are willing and it's fantastic. But not all churches are. So, of course, this message is going out to other people. So I also make comments about the wider picture of the church. But we're good. We've got people who are contributing in Connect Group. We've got people who come up and do communion messages. We've got people who are willing to preach. It's great. Absolutely great. So thank you. Let's move on. Oh, by the way, one thing I would mention before we do move on is that being on a P plate, it means that you're under some sort of authority still, right? What's the real story? I'm going to ask the main man on this subject, Nathaniel. Tell me, what happens if something goes wrong when you're on your P plate? Does it affect your license?
Yeah, it can, yeah.
Okay. You could lose it. Okay. So you're like, is it a probationary period sort of thing? That's the idea, isn't it? Yeah. Now, the idea of a probationary period is that someone's observing you. Someone's checking that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And in teaching, that's what should happen. No one should come into a church and say, oh, yeah, I've got a teaching gift. Oh, have you? Great. You can be on next Sunday. Okay? That's not wise, is it? We've got to check what the person already knows and check that they're going to teach the same principles that we're teaching, because Paul said loads of people come in and talk a load of rubbish. And Paul's like, no, don't listen to them. That's not what I'm teaching. Why are you letting this guy in the church? Okay, it's because they weren't showing that wisdom. So there has to be a kind of probationary period. And then, of course, there comes a point where we just completely trust that the person's got the same sort of mindset and understanding of the Bible as we have. But if somebody got up here tomorrow, let's say next week, tomorrow there might not be anyone here, but next week they get up and they start preaching and they say, yes, well, as we all know, there's no women teachers in the Bible. And even though last week I just said that actually, yes, God does gift women to preach and lead and prophesy, Philip's daughters, and I'll get to some more in a minute. Okay, then that would be a problem, wouldn't it? That would mean that I hadn't done my job. Okay, I haven't pastored the flock. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Timothy. Oh no, hang on. Paul. Now, Paul is an example of mentoring teaching. So we've had teacher-centered, we've had collaborative teaching, so it's where everyone's sort of teaching in bits and pieces and everyone's learning something from, and there's not just one guy or one lady. And now we've got the mentoring approach. Now, Paul did both. Okay, so he did teacher-led, but he also did mentoring. Who did he mentor? Quickly, it's on the screen. Go on in, Grace. Timothy, thank you. And that was a modelled example for us to learn from. Right? That's what it's there for. So we can go, who am I mentoring right now? Hands up if you're mentoring anybody at all. In any shape or form. Good. A few. There are people around you, yeah. Younger people than you, maybe just less mature people in terms of in the faith, and they need a little bit of guidance. They need you to contribute into their lives. You're going to speak to them more maybe than the once a week sermon. Okay, if you're the friend or a relative or something like that. Here we go, Acts 16, let's turn to that, Acts 16 verse 1 to 2. And this is the beginning of the journey. Paul came to Derby. There's Derby in England. Have you got Derby over here? It's probably Derby or something like that, but I like to call it Derby. My dad was born in Derby, you see, so I like to refer to Derby. It's probably Derby. And then to Lystra, where a disciple named Timothy lived, whose mother was Jewish and a believer, but whose father was a Greek. It gives him an interesting background, doesn't it? Maybe God has taken you through different scenarios so that you've got something different to offer to the last preacher. You realise that, right? God doesn't want clones. God hates the idea of cloning. Okay, that's demonic. God made you unique for a reason. He wants you. He doesn't want another version of you. He wants a Jesus-like version of you, but he doesn't want you to be like someone else. He wants you to be you. He loves you, just as you are. Always has done. And that message is so important, that we understand, yes, I'm a teacher, but I teach in a different way. I've got other things I bring. When Leonie and I teach, there's a difference between the way we teach, right? Yeah, mine's really great. Leonie's is pretty... No, I'm joking. See, mine's full of humour. That's what I was going to say. I'm only kidding. She's great. I really enjoyed the last message. Did you enjoy the last message? The one of sowing and reaping? Fantastic, wasn't it? And what else did you preach on recently? Oh, too long ago. See, she didn't even learn it herself, did she? See? It's gone already. It's terrible. Okay. This is great fun. She's got the mic soon, so I'm a bit worried. 2 weeks' time. Romans 16, 21. Look what's happened to Timothy. So he's a brand new believer. Paul's come along and said, this guy's all right. I'm quite impressed by this guy's attitude. He seems like he wants to learn. Let's get him on board. Come with me, Timothy. Come and learn some stuff from me, mate. And in Romans 16, verse 21, we see that Timothy, my co-worker. The language has changed. Now, Paul is referring to Timothy as if he's kind of an equal. My co-worker. You can trust this guy. He knows a lot. He's very gifted. Have a listen to this guy. And he puts him in charge over different churches, doesn't he? All right? The church in Ephesus, I think, but I can't quite remember. Also, when we're teaching, Paul typifies for us the idea of teaching in different contexts. So if you jump to Acts 15, verse 35, Acts 15, go back a bit. Acts 15, 35, you'll see that Paul went to Antioch with Barnabas, another teacher. But Barnabas was also a what? What's he famous for? Famous for being an encourager, thank you. He was great at saying, yeah, it's okay. Come on, you're doing great, come on. None of that is some sort of scriptural teaching. That is a gifting of encouragement, which is coming up in a while. So he had a couple of gifts that he was majoring in, but like a degree. Sometimes you major in something and minor in another. Is that right? Do you do that over here? I think so, good. Otherwise that sounded completely weird. Acts 18 again, verse 11. So first he goes off to Antioch, and then he goes to Corinth. And in that situation, he's teaching to a different group of people. Totally different issues. Idol worship, major issue in Corinth. Acts 20:20. Turn the page again, couple of pages. Acts 20:20. We see that Paul did two things. He was teaching like this in public. Praise God. Hope you can hear me over there. God loves you too. Imagine there might be someone in that warehouse just doing a few extra hours. Probably not. But anyway, it's a nice thought to be out in public preaching. And then Paul would go and preach or teach in small groups, in house churches. If you look at the text, it's right there. It says it. Acts 20:20. So Paul was willing to teach whoever needed teaching. And we have some needs in church. We're soon going to be running, as soon as the restrictions are down, we're going to be running an alpha course in the church. We're starting our toddler church as well. And we're going to have a young people's group eventually, probably in the new year. all right, which will be about getting some youngsters, hopefully totally non-Christians, coming in to hear a little bit about God and make a decision if they want to come along to church at some point. So we'll need extra teachers at that point. Let's move on to Timothy. Now, Timothy typifies by being the taught one and also by doing it himself, modelling. Have you heard of modelling in teaching? Anyone heard of this idea? I did this just recently. I basically wrote the answers for a kid. Did all his work. That's right, isn't it? That's what modelling is. Oh, is that not it? Okay. No, I didn't. I wrote some aspects to give him an example of what he could write, and then I explained why I wrote it that way. I gave him an example. I modelled, if I was writing a story, this is what I could write, and that would give this suggestion to the reader. The reader's reading it, and if you say it this way, what does that make you think? Oh, that makes you think maybe they had a discussion before. Very good. But if you just tell me they decided this, that doesn't really make me think. So I modelled it to him. I gave him an example and then let him have a go. All right? And he did great. Did really great. Maybe too great. No, he did good. He did good. Okay, but teachers, we are modelling because kids they don't know what we know. They don't know that if you say this, this infers this. So until you show it to them, right? Lots of us learn by example, right? And by it being modelled to us, and then we go, oh, like that. Ah, that's how you prophesy. Been doing that one recently, haven't we? Let's go to the next one. Oh, sorry, one thing before we go there. Look at how Paul is talking to Timothy. You must be qualified to teach. Okay, what does that suggest? Anyone? You're going to be qualified to teach. What should you have done? Training. Thank you. Training. You need to be willing to train under somebody or under a movement. Maybe go in the CRC diploma course and learn the theology. Okay? And also, you need to correctly handle the Word of God. How do you know how to correctly handle it unless somebody teaches you? So if I say to you, you need to use hermeneutics and you don't know what that means, that's no good, is it? You're like, oh, okay, Pastor JR, I'll do my best. And then you start talking about it, and you've got no reference to what was happening in that scenario right then and why Jesus spoke the way he did. It's going to be a bit shallow. In fact, you might get it completely wrong. So hermeneutics means that we correspond what's being taught with what was known and understood at the time. Okay, we don't just take it out of context and go, yeah, but I'd like to imagine it's happening right here. When it didn't happen here. The story happened back then 2,000 years ago, and we need to respect that and understand the bigger implications, okay? Next one. Jesus. I mean, I think you'd be worried if I didn't refer to Jesus, right? Who is Jesus? Begins with T. Teacher. Thank you. It's easy. Easy question. Gives you a bit of encouragement, doesn't it? I got that one. That's easy. I'm going to try the next one. Ready? Let's have a read out of these. Luke 6, verse 40. Marcia, can you read that out, please? And Grace, could you read out Matthew 5:19? Elijah, could you read out John 13:14? And John, could you read out Matthew 28:19? Obviously, Jesus was the greatest teacher ever, but his main method was a living example. Everything he did was teaching us something. Not just the words coming out of his mouth, or not just his behaviour, but everything, wasn't it? His responses, his attitude, his willingness to die to self, everything was a teaching example to us. So Jesus was our ultimate teacher. And let's listen to what he says about teaching. Marcia, have you got that first one? Yeah, you can go.
A disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher.
I absolutely love that verse because it's suggesting God's not putting some impossible target up there. No, you'll never make it. You'll always be a bit rubbish. He wants us to reach that target, to be like him and to teach like him, doesn't he? That's so encouraging, isn't it? We don't have to think, oh, it's useless. I'll never be like him. Yes, you will. Why is that? Because it's the Holy Spirit's job. It's not your job. You're just cooperating. Well, sometimes you're cooperating and sometimes you're not. We're not, right? But if we're cooperating, Holy Spirit's at work. Next one, Matthew 5. Grace.
Anyone who breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven.
So you can be a great teacher if you teach people exactly what God said. And you don't take some bits out because they feel a bit awkward and you try and placate the government or whatever. That's not great teaching. That is fearful teaching, and that is not submitting to the word of God as it's written and given to us, isn't it? We want to teach everything that Jesus commanded, not just the nice bits. Right? We agree with that? Everyone happy with that? Good. Let's go to the next one. Yep, Elijah.
If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet.
And I've referred to this before, that the idea of sitting at Jesus' feet is because you're there to learn. Yeah, and not from a distance. Jesus wants us to come close and learn up close and personal. All right? So he coaches and he's right by us. And he loves us that much. He's not going, you stay over there until you're clean enough. No, just come straight over here. I've already washed you. Now I just need to wash your feet with the word. I need to give you an extra bit of cleansing just to help you understand where you're struggling and why you're struggling. Okay, we come to his feet, don't we? And then he says, and now you should do that for each other. Right? He wants us to teach each other, as we're going to see in a minute. Last one then, John.
Go therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Go, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you.
Oh, how often do you miss off that last bit of the verse, right? We hear that one, don't we? Go therefore, and what does it say at the beginning? Make disciples, that's the one. Make disciples. I've heard it so often I can't remember it even slightly. But then it goes on to the end, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded. Not the nice bits, everything. The hard bits as well. So if you're getting teaching, it should be everything. All right, there should be a blend of everything, shouldn't there? Coming from God. Okay, so let's move on to you and us. So let's say you've not got a teaching gift, okay, which will obviously not be loads and loads of you. It'll be maybe 20% of us who are teachers, or maybe less actually. Teaching others, okay? Romans 12. Let's go to Romans 12. If your gift is serving, serve others, serve them well. And if you are a teacher, teach well. He's saying to them, prepare. Do some sacrificial research. Be prepared to spend hours preparing a preach. Preaching, how long does it take you, Leonie, to prepare a preach?
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks, exactly. I've whittled it down to about 3 days now, so that's good. Yeah, no, but that's right. That's true, actually. It does actually help, yeah. The longer, yeah, it's true. But it does take hours, doesn't it? Hours to prepare to preach. Because I am conscious I do not want to preach something that's not true. I want to have integrity when I speak. I don't want to misrepresent God. I am fearful of God. Do you fear God? Right? We should fear God in the right way. We respect and honour him. We do not talk rubbish on his behalf. We make sure what we're saying is biblical. And that takes time and energy, doesn't it? It really does. Okay, so teach well. Next one, Romans 16:17. I urge you, brothers, keep your eye on those who cause dissensions and hindrances, contrary to the teaching which you learned, and turn away from them. Paul is not messing about. If you hear some dodgy teaching, so let's say someone comes in, I heard this kind of teaching, I don't know if it's a cult thing, what do you think? I'm going to say, yeah, that's cultish. That's not biblical. I'd advise you just leave that, don't watch that one. I'm going to say that. Like Paul, I'm going to say, no, that doesn't line up with Scripture. Let me show you why. Okay, it's not just my opinion, is it? We shouldn't be helping each other with our opinion. We should go to the Word, right? And say, well, let's see what it says in the Bible, shall we? Otherwise, people are going to get misled and start arguing, dissensions. And look at this at the bottom there. Oh, by the way, 2 Timothy 3:16, you must have heard of it. Look at this. All Scripture is God-breathed and profitable or useful for teaching. One of the things it's useful for is teaching, of course, which means all Scripture is useful for teaching and the other things. You don't want to be hearing a teacher who only ever refers to the New Testament. Okay, that means they're really not very aware of the rest of the story or the significance of the other stories. That's not good. So they should have done a bit more learning to get the whole context of the word. Yeah, we don't just take nice bits. I'll just stay in the Beatitudes, you know. Oh, blessed. I'm going to do that all year. Okay, well, good, but there should be more as well, shouldn't there? There should be more. And then the last one there, James 3 verse 1. Someone read that out for me, please. Go on then. Go on, Sam. Read it out.
Not many become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly.
Good. Now, not many of you should become teachers, meaning that if you've got the gift, all right, but also you can teach to a certain extent without being a teacher in the church. You should not just become a teacher because you really like the idea. Oh, look, I think I want to be at the front. Okay, but have you got the calling to be a teacher? Are you willing to be trained? Have you done any training? Because if you get it wrong, it's quite a big problem. I'm not going to mention the name, but there's a very prominent teacher who's just fallen from grace. You might have found out online. And I saw this coming a little while ago, prophetically. And I have prayed about it, not very much, but I have prayed about it. And sure enough, it's happened. So this guy has fallen from grace, and now all of those young believers who are following after his teachings, thinking he was Mr. Cool and everything else, there's a real problem. They might fall away from the Lord, isn't there? Because of his misteaching and not behaving right and having the right balance and everything else. So very much so, it matters how we teach and how we present. Next one then, last one actually, we're nearly there. Teaching others. Titus 2, please turn to Titus 2 in your Bibles. This is about where we're checking out who's got to do what. And in here you can see a very important verse. Let's see where it is. Teaching. Leonie, could you read this out for us? Ready? Just start from verse 3. It's so petty, I know. It's really embarrassing. I shouldn't do this. It's meaningless. Go for it, Leonie.
The older women likewise, that they be reverent in behaviour, not slanderers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. They admonish the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, homemakers, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be blasphemed.
So that means all women, right? You ready? You understand the proper interpretation of this one is...
Girls, get tomatoes ready to chuck them.
I know, yeah. It's your job to teach the kids, right? That's it. We got that from that scripture. Take it out of context. Solely your responsibility, isn't it? No, obviously not. Obviously. This is one of those exact examples. We just take it out of context. Oh, well, it's not my job then. I don't have to teach the kids. Yes, you do, young man, father, husband. Yes, you do. But in this particular thing, Paul is talking about another part there where older women could teach the younger women. Why is that important? Anyone? What do you think, Tiani? Why is that important to have input from an older woman? Thank you. Personal experience. When Jesus and all the others are teaching, they teach from their personal experience. They don't say, well, apparently the book says this, do they? They say, well, when this happened to me, this is how I got through this. And you know where it says with Paul and Silas, they praised, I did that and it works. I'm telling you, this is how you do it. And if you've got problems in your marriage, this is how you should deal with it. All right? There isn't some big chapter on how to deal with disagreements in marriage, is there? So we need someone who's walked it through, already listened to the Holy Spirit, already knows how to have a right attitude, how to bless, love, forgive, all the other things. We need someone in person to tell us, don't we? And that can be so helpful. Older men to younger men. Older women to younger women. Okay? Because of their different roles and experiences and physicality as well. Okay? Also, it goes on to talk about the kids as well. But I'm going to move on to the last one. The last slide then. Colossians 3:16. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom. So do you need to know your Bible? Nathaniel, do you need to know your Bible? Yeah. Good. Why?
Because you need to be able to know what you're teaching.
Good. And if someone says something contrary, admonish them. Say, oh, I don't think that's in the Bible, mate. Actually, no, I don't think that's in there. Where did you find that? I think it says in Titus, it actually says this. We all can help we can teach each other. We should be able to go, I don't think that's in there. And I'm telling you now, we should have a church that is so focused on the word, we're not really that bothered about people's opinions, right? People's opinions fluctuate up and down. They're temporary, they're populist, they're swayed by all sorts of biases and nonsense. But the word of God is eternal. It does not change. That's where we go for our answers. And if you don't know what's in there, that's a bit of an issue. And it's definitely a reason to study it a bit more. Let's go to Romans 18. Here we see a major big gun in the church, Apollos. Paul refers to him, Apollos does this, I do this. Apollos is prophesying, etc. He was a learned man with a thorough knowledge of the scriptures. Listen carefully, a thorough knowledge of the scriptures. He had been instructed in the way of the Lord. He's sounding kind of qualified right now. Would you agree? Sounds pretty good. Done his university degree in theology. And he spoke with great fervour and taught about Jesus accurately. Can you see any problems? Can anyone see any problems? Not yet. It's sounding pretty great, right? Though he knew only the baptism of John, not the Holy Spirit baptism. And there are many, many Christians who are Christians, but they only know the baptism of John. They don't know the baptism of the Holy Spirit. And their lives are hard of work for it. They don't have the Holy Spirit speaking to them constantly through them to others. They're not enjoying that power of God that's available to all of us. But look at this. Verse 26, I think. When Priscilla and Aquila, who's Priscilla and Aquila? Does anyone know? Are they man and man? Man and woman? Husband and wife. The husband and wife. When Priscilla and Aquila heard him, this is Apollos, he's a big gun, remember? They invited him to their home and explained to him the way of God more adequately. So he had a lady explaining to him, teaching him the way of God more adequately. Right? He was taught by Priscilla. Is that great or what? Because she had something he hadn't got yet. Okay, she might not have done all that other stuff. She might not have been as schooled in the other areas, but she knew something that he didn't know, and she was ready to share it. So, how do you know? Have you ever been baptized in the Holy Spirit? You know Jesus said that you should be baptized in the Spirit as well as the water. You know that, right? Do you know how? Okay, let's just pray. We'll just pray. She taught him that bit. Made him even more potent for the kingdom of God. And it was a woman teaching a man. Just to highlight that. Right, let's finish. We're going to finish with our response. Can you just take a second? Take a second to think about whether you are teachable. Who do I listen to or submit to? Would you be interested in doing some further study? Theological training with the CRC, for example. I can tell you their stuff is brilliant. We have a brilliant church movement that we're part of. Number 2, how much study do I do now to make sure I actually know what Jesus commanded? If I say to you, what did Jesus command you about money? What's the answer? Do you know the answer? If I say to you, what did he command you when it comes to love? You'd be like, love one another as you've been loved. We should know, shouldn't we? We should be able to know straight away. And lastly, how can I do more teaching myself by modelling my own behaviour, my own attitudes, my own honouring of God with my life, my body, my mouth, my language? I've got to model. Everyone's listening to me, right? I'm very conscious of this in where I live. I have someone's teacher right nearby. They can hear me. I still shout. It's all right. They understand. I'm allowed to shout. Oi! I love you, son. Come over here. Right, you do that again. I'll just do it a bit quieter. You know? That's how you do it, don't you? Make sure they can't hear. But I'm modelling all the time. We're modelling, okay? It really matters. Think about who's watching you. Think about who's watching you. All right, let's have a little prayer and we're going to stop there, okay? Lord, we just thank you for the word. Thank you that, goodness me, it's so full of so much. And we only scratch the surface sometimes. But Lord, thank you that your word is so helpful to us. And Lord, that you are the teacher and your Holy Spirit comes to teach us more, even today. There should be something there that we take home and think, right, that's true, I need to do that. Oh my goodness, I've never even thought about that. Someone's watching me. Lord, please teach us and help us to retain this knowledge so that we can be like you more this week. And let us teach others, Lord. Show us what to say and how to say it in a way that actually is more like you, more adequately like you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.